Maggie's kind of motto, if you like, was always that out of something so bad, she hoped that something good would come in the form of new rights for people who find themselves in the kind of situation that she did. To what extent do you think that it will help people who do unfortunately find themselves in that kind of situation abroad?
You often hear from powerful women, powerful people like Maggie, this idea that in adversity you see strength. And you know, the powerful person that Maggie is, who I know very well, adversity is meant to do good for other people, and that's what she's about. I think the Commissioner, Reding, she realised that, we've realised that, and in this case it's brought good on a European level, which is very unusual. And it's brought legislation which will cover not just the United Kingdom and UK citizens, but citizens right across the EU, and most importantly citizens from the UK who are travelling across the EU. Many people ask, you know, what's the point of the EU? Well, here's a very powerful example. People want to do something for victims of crime back in the UK, but very often when you're travelling across the EU, when you're using legal systems that are very often alien to you, medical systems that you don't know about, all of these things come together and cause confusion. And through adversity, in this case, we've got a piece of legislation now which will genuinely provide support to people in these situations. Prior to this, there was support, but it wasn't coordinated. So this piece of legislation finally coordinates support for those victims of crime. If you find yourself a victim of crime and you're British, anywhere in the European Union, you'll have support services that were not coordinated for you in this case.
I know that there are many aspects to this legislation, but are you able to pick out just a few concrete examples of where help in the future will be at hand, where it's been lacking until now?
I think the concrete examples, for example, the amendments we put in for this legislation that you will see that were not there before in terms of coordination would be that if you're a victim of crime, there will be a support office in the European Union which will coordinate services. So for example, if you find yourself in a health system where English is not spoken, your language is not spoken, there'll be interpretation services. If you find yourself in a legal system which is not familiar to you, there'll be legal help. You'll be able to draw on this European office for support. So these are the kinds of services which were not available before. They would have been available, but in a very truncated form. You would have had to search for them. And I think very often when people travel abroad from the UK, they always feel if they just go to their embassy or their consulate, suddenly, because they're British, they will always find support. Sadly, in recent years, people have realised that that's not always the case. If they lose their money, they become victims of crime, the support isn't automatically there. Hundreds of thousands, millions of British visitors travel around the world. And very often, as we now realise, through this many documentaries you see on TV, that help is not adequately there. So through European law, we're now going to coordinate that help, and the concrete examples will now be there through this European office. That doesn't mean every victim of crime will always have that help, but this is a significant step forward in coordinating the help. Usually you need the help through the legal system, through the criminal legal system, through the health services. This is where the flashpoints happen, particularly when you're a victim of crime. So I think it's a significant step forward, and I think Commissioner Reding's done a good job, the European Parliament's done a good job. But without people like Maggie Hughes and the real examples in real life, we wouldn't have got this very good legislation together.
I mean, just one final point on Maggie Hughes. How proud do you think she can feel of what she's achieved?
I think Maggie Hughes can be very proud. Not only has she brought through a very positive example through her son Robbie, but through adversity she's managed to bring forward legislation for 27 countries, not just one. That's a very rare thing to do for a mother. I think she can be very proud of her son, very proud of bringing forward multinational legislation. I think it's a very significant thing to do. Be very proud of the debate here in the European Parliament and what she's done. It's a very rare thing to do, and I hope she can feel very proud of what she's done.